did with depression and created groups, you can do the same with sense of belonging and create groups there. And so I'll say the descriptive statistics, and this time I want the sum of sense of belonging, and I'll paste that because I want to first understand what's my minimum value here and what's my maximum. And it's gone to my output. Okay, I see the minimum here is 2 and the maximum is 15. So I could do like before and say up to 15 is low, for example, and 16 and above is high sense of belonging. And so I can create those variables. I can say transform, recode into a different variable. And this time I want sense of belonging to create sense of belong group. And this will be the name of my new variable, so I can easily distinguish between, oh, that's a variable with the groups and that's a variable with the sum. And then, you know, the one is a scale variable, the other is a categorical variable. So all the new, I want the range of lowest through 15 to be 1. Oh, oopsie daisy. Okay, so I have those actually from before, which is great. Then I'll just say continue because I want the same. But this rarely happens that it lines up so neatly that the same kinds of ranges work for different variables. Typically, you need to run those descriptives like I did, check what your min and max is, decide, do I want maybe 3 groups, low depression, medium depression, high depression, like just have some judgment there, and then create it. But in my case, I'll leave it be, especially also since this is just demonstrating and it's in my syntax. I'll press play, and now I have it in my output. It has been created indeed, and I see it here, and it's a nominal variable, just like I'd like. And if I look in my data set, indeed, it is now groups of 1 and 2. And again, I want to label that just so I don't confuse myself. 1 is low sense of belonging. You can have spaces in the labels. 2 is high sense of belonging. Okay, now I have the groups, and now I can do different things, right? I can take these two and do crosstab analysis, and crosstabs are done on categorical variables. And so let me go to descriptive statistics and crosstabs. And if you are not quite understanding, oh, crosstabs, the prerequisite to the survey research course is a data analysis course, so you might just want to refresh your memory. I won't go into too much detail here on those, but crosstabs are typically run on categorical variables like these and not on scale variables. You'd never put, for instance, math scores here and English scores here and try to do a crosstab. It just wouldn't work. It's for categorical variables, which, like the name suggests, has categories like gender, male, female. You could put gender here, and you could put something that was on a Likert scale, because those are groups, and put it up here as well. All right, so statistics, I want some chi-squared tests to be run so that if there is a difference between the groups, is it statistically significant or not? So I'll pick that, and I'll say continue. And then under cells, I'll put the observed, so this will give me the counts, the actual number of people in each group, and I'll also take the percentages of the columns, and you'll see in a minute why that becomes important, and I'll leave the rest as they are. I'll paste, and when I do that, it comes here, and I will press play. And now I can see that in the low depression group, I have 119 people in that group that I created, and I have 47 people in the high depression group. And when I look down, it adds up, where it adds up to 100%, that helps me know, okay, it's just telling me out of all of the low depression group people, 50.4% of them have low sense of belonging, and 49% have high sense of belonging. So not a very big difference in the low depression group. But in the high depression group, I see that there is really high, 89.4% of the ones in that group have a high sense of belonging, and a very small percentage have a low sense of belonging. We would expect the inverse. Again, the data is fictitious, but this is good. Like it's starting to show you some things, and you can now create a nice graph. But to create graphs with crosstabs, I like to get rid of the numbers, so I'm just working with percentages, because with these charts that we make with the frequencies, even for example, its percentages give you bar charts. You can't do bar charts, stacked bar charts on frequencies. It's really about percentages. So same case here. So what I'll do here then is to simply go to my syntax file and remove the count and rerun this. Just press play again. Now it has rerun that analysis. Oh, and the difference, by the way, was statistically significant with the Pearson tests, which is great. So the difference that we are seeing is significant. So I'll copy that table. I'll go to Excel and open a new tab, paste it and merge it. And I will highlight that, not the totals, but just the percentages in the variables that I care about. And I'll say, let's make some bar graphs that are stacked bar. These are the 100% stacked bar, so that each bar adds up to 100%. And it will give you two choices. And so when I was newer to research, this was confusing. Oh, when do I pick this? It's really simple. The table will tell you, because it will tell you what's adding up to 100%. Is it the low sense of belonging is adding to 100%, in which case I'd pick this one, where each bar adds up to 100% in terms of sense of belonging. But that's not the case. If you look across, it's not adding to 100%. It's the depression groups that are adding this one, whereby, let me just pick it so you can see, where the low depression group, out of 100%, there's a certain percentage that's low. Let me add the data labels. I'm sorry, when I try to talk and show things, it's quite tricky. Okay, so see now, there's 89% of those in the high sense of belonging group, I mean, in the high depression group, have a high sense of belonging, the orange bar. And that's exactly what the table was telling you as well. So if you're ever confused about which stacked chart to choose, again, look at the one that adds up to 100 and pick it. And then again, interpret it. Say it out loud. Oh, this chart is telling me out of all of the people in the high depression group, 89% of them have a high sense of belonging. And that's why that's an orange bar. And is that the case with the table? Is that what this 89 was telling me? Let me see. Out of all of the people in the high depression group, that's why it's adding to 100%. 89% of them have high sense of belonging. So with time, it becomes very automatic, but sometimes you have to do that. And then like that, you can add that chart, and you can say, chi-square test show this statistically significant. And again, you can Google how exactly to present that in a paper or whatever it is. So that's something else that you can do. Now, I'm just curious. I want to remember how we did the descriptives where we had those box plots. Let me just show you why running a syntax, keeping a syntax file is great as well. It's because of this. Yeah, where we had those box plots. I'm curious to repeat that process. And this time, I'd like to add that some depression instead of some sense of belonging. I want to instead add this other variable where the depression levels were a scale variable. And I want to see what those look like by the sense of belonging group. And so I look for my sense of belonging group variable just so I remember what I called it. Let me see. It was here, sense of belong group. You'll see in a minute why I'm doing this. I'm just so curious to see whether it makes any difference in terms of what things mean. So this is telling me that I'm among the people in the high sense of belonging group, their depression levels tend to be higher than those people in the low sense of belonging group. Okay, and our previous box plot was telling us among those in the high depression group, their sense of belonging was higher. So it has told us pretty much the same thing. It's just what is on the y-axis is different. Anyway, I didn't mean to confuse you there, but in essence, the takeaway is when you're trying to show relationships between two ideas, be it depression and sense of belonging, you can have one be a continuous variable or a scale variable, which is numbers that can go all the way to whatever it is. And the other variable is groups. And you can go to analyze and descriptives, explore, just like I did, and you can rewind this video and you can get something like this, which visually shows you how those averages compare. Or you can create groups from the continuous variables. And so I created depression groups and I created sense of belonging groups. And then I did a crosstab, right? And now where's my crosstab? I can look here and it's right here. And here are my percentages, and I can take the percentages, plot them in Excel, and really visually see, whoa, okay, they have a much higher percentage of these kinds of people in this group and all of that. And you can leave them both as continuous variables and then run correlations. And so I'll just look for my correlations here. They're right here. And this is where I had my some sense of belonging, some depression, ran Pearson correlation, and so that they were positively correlated, which case as one moves up, the other moves up, as one moves down, the other moves down. So positive, just think of them as moving together. And if it was negative, they'd be moving in opposite directions, whereas one goes up, the other tends to go down. So there's so much one could do, and I'm looking at my notes to see if there was any other thing I wanted to make sure you come away with. Not at the moment, but there are regression analysis, there's factor analysis, there's all kinds of analysis. But at least this just gives you some really basic, I can at least get descriptive statistics. I can go to descriptives and do frequencies or descriptives. And then I can take things to the next level by transforming variables and creating into different variables, and using all the new values either with the ranges or whatever. And then once I have those new variables, I can start to do correlations or crosstabs or different things. So I hope you're excited to dig into your data. Reach out if you have any questions, and yeah.